All right. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Soroka. I'm the founder of NotaryCoach.com and author of the Amazon best-selling book, Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent. Welcome to Tuesday Notary Titans for Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. It's the end of the month, and I'm here with our co-host, Laura Biewer, founder of CoachMeLaura.com and so much more. How's it going, Laura?
Good. I just made it in the door, coming back from some appointments this morning. So I'm glad I made it and to be with everybody today. I kind of coming off of what you were doing with the Side Hustle Lounge and that burn to stop the burn. One of the things I do is I pay for Legal Shield. I have my own Legal Shield, right, membership. Besides offering it to others. And I'm watching it, every month, and I hardly ever use it. In fact, I probably haven't used it in a year or more. And I thought to myself, I need to look for an opportunity because I'm paying it. And sure enough, the opportunity came. And I had a contract or an agreement that I needed to sign. It was about a $10,000 agreement. So I thought, what the heck? And so I called them. Within less than 30 minutes, an attorney called me back. I told him what I needed. He said, upload it, send it to this email, probably take up to 2 days. I thought, well, I'm not in a hurry, no big deal. He called me back in less than 2 hours, had reviewed the agreement, said, you know what, why are expenses sitting in here? That person's a contractor, you're not responsible for their expenses. I would suggest that you take that out of the contract before you sign it. And I hadn't even noticed. And so done deal, that quick. And I was able to contact the person and say, hey, I don't think this needs to be in here. Could you take it out? And I'm ready to sign. So it was really great for me to realize that what I have going on is a value and that it's not just something sitting there hitting my credit card every month. And of course, over the many years that I've had it, I've more than gotten back what I paid in premiums. But here I can say, just as of this morning, I got it to work. So I'm kind of excited that I got to go through the process and do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that service too. I'm a big fan of it. When I first started, I was finding excuses to use it just to make sure that it was the real deal. And I've always been so impressed. So I'm so glad you got to
Very
experience
impressed.
that too.
Yeah, it was great service.
Awesome. And I think Carol Ray is going to be out today. Although, Carol, if you come on and I don't see you, please chime in and let me know. But we're kind of expecting that she might miss today. Speaking of money, guys, I just want to tell you, I'm going to tell you about 2 events, but I'm going to do it one at a time so we don't get confused. So on the front side of this, speaking of money, next Tuesday, right after Tuesday Notary Titans, Jennifer Neitzel from Signing Agent Marketing is sponsoring Corey Proctor, former NFL player, and he now owns Pro Wealth Management or Pro Wealth Capital, Pro Capital Wealth Management. And he is going to come on just for us and talk about wealth building for small business owners. It's going to be a casual conversation. We'll record it, but if you'd like to join us, register at the link I'm typing into the chat window. And of course, I'll send this out via email with the replay as well, but it does require registration to participate in that conversation and meet Corey. Like I said, I'll talk about the other event later. Let's jump in here and answer some questions, guys. Tuesday Notary Titans. It works like an old-fashioned call-in radio show, except we use Zoom. So we use the raise hand feature in Zoom. If you don't know how to find that, just type it into the chat. We have a group of amazing notaries from all over the country that can help guide you to the raise hand feature. We're going to call on you. When we do, please tell us what state you're in and what your question is directly. If we need some backup information, we'll ask some questions to get us there. All right. Laura, you ready?
Hold on. I want to get some paper here. Okay.
All right, let's do it. Karen Singleton, it looks like your hand is up first. Thank you so much for being here. If you'd like to unmute, tell us what state you're in and how we can help.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today?
So good. Thank you.
That's great. I am calling from Georgia, right. And this question is for Laura. Laura, I know that you're going to be doing a presentation on May 7th for the Georgia notaries.
Yes.
And I went on, so I went to go register, but I also went onto your website, and I see that you have a master class. It seems like you're doing the same thing on your website, but it's individual.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
my question is it more, I don't know, is it more beneficial for me to just do the one-on-one with you, or should I do the group? That way I can glean from information that I might not been exposed to. What do you think?
So the information is going to be very similar. The difference is in your learning style and how much one-on-one attention that you'd like to have. In the group, people can post questions. It doesn't mean I'll get to everybody's questions. If you're looking to save a little money, the group rate is cheaper than 2 hours of my time personally. So
Right.
it really is, you're going to get the same information. It's just, how do you want that interaction to be?
Okay, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah,
Okay,
great
yeah.
question. And for anybody who's wondering, I did type in coachmelora.com is the official website, but I included the link to Laura's various products, so you can check those out there. Looks like iPhone or iPhone is next. If you'd like to unmute, tell us what state you're in and how we can help today. If you're
Here.
you're
There you go.
registered.
That might be me. It's
It
Denise.
is.
Sure.
Hi, Denise.
Sorry, it's first time driving, so I didn't want to miss it. I hope everybody's well, and as always, thank you both for sharing your knowledge. My question today is about quitclaim deeds. I don't know if you could just speak to that for a little bit and just what to expect, what to look out for, what type of questions to ask in terms of general notary work.
Oh, so in other words, somebody just calls and says, "Hi, I need to have a quitclaim deed notarized."
Right.
Yeah, Laura, anything special you'd suggest here?
Well, as I would handle any document, whether it was a quitclaim deed or some other kind of document, I would remind them that the document needs to be created, completed, so that all that's necessary is signature when I'm in front of them. And of course, the notary rules of having identification, so I can prove they're the right person signing the document. So that, I would use that rule for any kind of document. It doesn't have to just be, a quitclaim deed. If you're wanting to know more about what that does, that document is going to be signed by the current owner of the property, called the grantor, and it will convey or transfer ownership to who's going to get the property, the grantee, and it is the grantor's signatures that are notarized.
Got it. Okay.
I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add on there too, because it gets a little bit confusing sometimes, is very oftentimes the grantor and the grantee are the same person, but with different variation of the name. If that makes sense.
Yeah, Bill, sometimes they call that quitclaim deed a cleanup deed, and they're just fixing their name. So they could be the grantor and the grantee at the same time.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for being here. All right. Larry, great to see you here. You want to tell everybody what state you're in and how we can help?
Hi, everyone. I'm in California. And I'm calling because I have a situation with a signing I did a week ago that kind of left me uneasy. And I kind of wanted some advice on A, whether I did the right thing, and B, like, how do I avoid this kind of weird situation before. I've only been doing loan signings for like a year or two, so I haven't actually done a seller only package before. And I got one, like I said, a week ago, and I wasn't allowed to contact the signer. Now you're supposed to pre-contact the signer, confirm the date, and make sure everything's okay, and discuss COVID. And they didn't give me a phone number. When I called the signing service, they said, well, the title company has done that already, and all you're supposed to do is show up. We've confirmed everything, you just show up. And I'm like, okay, but like aren't we supposed to discuss like COVID settings? What do we do about COVID and make sure, because they were wanting to have copies of ID. So I'm like sure that the signer had copies of ID that I could take away. And they just sent me an email saying, you're supposed to take a picture of the ID with your phone, which I know we're not supposed to, but I felt like I was trapped. So I did it, but I deleted the pictures as soon as I uploaded them and took them off my phone. But there were, it felt weird, like the documents all had two people on them. So I was expecting two signers, and it turns out one of the signers was 3 states away. And I thought, oh, this is a split signing, so I'm somehow going to be sending the documents to the other signer. They're like, no, they have their own set. He has this set, and that's just it. And when I got to the signer's house, he already had a set of the documents that he had pre-signed. And I'm like, and then go, oh, well, they told me that I can't pre-sign them, that you have to. And I got so nervous that I started scratching the second signer's name off the document. And I realized I'm only responsible for the documents that I notarized. So I made sure that I wrote, the one signer and then only in the notary section, and just left it alone. And I haven't heard anything like any complaints or anything wrong, but I just wondered what that was about. It seemed awfully weird. And it made me a little nervous, like maybe I've done something, bad or helped them get away with doing something wrong that we shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a really weird situation that would drive me crazy as a professional for sure. Laura, do you have an opinion on this?
Yes, and I'd like to state it's only opinion. And that is when the hiring company refuses me the ability to contact who I'm going to be working with so that I can identify concerns, whether it's COVID concerns, ID concerns, ahead of time, then I refuse the job, because I need to have that ability so that I don't show up to the wrong place, so that I don't walk into something I shouldn't. And so that it's got a good chance of succeeding, because they know what kind of ID, not just any old kind of ID. Because, in California, we're not loosey-goosey. If it's not on my list, then I can't use it. So that's the first part. And that may sound harsh, but you know what? They're not walking into that person's house. I am. The other thing is concurrent signings, where there's 2 sets of documents and one signing here and one signing there, is a common occurrence when they're not together. It's nothing unusual about that part of it. And yes, you were right. You only take care of the person in front of you. And the only concern you should have is in the certificate that the second person is not named. If they are, you can either strike their name or replace that certificate with your own certificate. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, nailed it. I'm right in the same boat. Now, I know it's not always easy just to turn down business like that, but I like to believe that I am a professional. I take this very seriously. And if somebody's trying to bound my hands because they don't think I'm professional enough to communicate with a signer, then then why send me to their house? I don't even want to deal with it. I might deal with it once, but I certainly wouldn't deal with it again.
Yeah. And one other thing, Larry, about taking pictures. So I don't take pictures with my phone, but if they want to take a picture with their phone and send it ahead, or send it to me so that I can print it, but I will not put their picture of their ID in my own phone. So there's the alternative.
Yeah. Should have thought of that. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Great situation. We've been put into those weird situations so many times, Larry. Thank you for sharing yours.
We all learn.
Yep. All right. Shane Saylor. Thank you for being here. You want to unmute? Tell us what state you're in and how we can help.
Good afternoon. I'm in Virginia. Last Friday, I just took my oath of office and I'm waiting to get my stamp and seal.
All right.
So I have 3 separate questions. The first one is, I know notaries should get into the practice of writing a traditional notary book, but what about the digital notary books, like the Notary Act or something. I don't know off the bat if they're legal in Virginia, and what's the what's the upside and the downside of that?
Between a digital journal versus the traditional handwritten journal. Is that your
Yeah.
question, Shane? Okay, great. Well, to me, it's going to be total reliance on your state specific guidelines. Also, I think that if it is allowed, there are some title companies. I think it's Amrock, right, Laura, that
It's
says
Amrock.
Notary Act cannot be used.
Well, electronic journal, they didn't
Electronic journal in
isolate them,
general,
but
yeah.
electronic journal.
Yeah. So there are some implications for that, but I would start with the state specifics. Laura, what's your input on that?
So without having a look, I'd have to look it up to see if electronic is acceptable in Virginia. My question to you, Shane, is a journal for traditional notarizations a requirement in Virginia? Do you know that?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, so that's where you start. If it's not required, then you can use anything you want. If it is required, then that's when you need to check the statute to see if they make some specific requirement about that. So that's where you need to start is it even a requirement in my state? And then you would go from there. And then in terms of if it is acceptable, the upside is going to be faster. The downside is, you are relying on technology that can crash. And you take more responsibility for maintaining the privacy, because I don't know if that's kept in the cloud versus with you. So those are some of the things I would be thinking about if I used electronic versus paper.
Hey, this Griff.
Nobody's going to crash paper, and nobody can, unless they steal your whole journal, nobody's going to get to the information when it's paper.
All right, thank you.
Yep, great.
Yeah.
One sec, because Griff's in Virginia. He just chimed in. Hey, Griff.
Hey, what's going on, buddy? And Laura.
Hey, Griff, good to see you.
You too. Yeah, it is not required in Virginia.
Thank you.
I can't remember the deal on the electronic side, but personally, I would prefer to have something physical that I'm able to hold on to rather than digital for a lot of the reasons that Laura mentioned. And I'm a former IT guy, so I would rather have the physicalness of it, since it's not required in Virginia. I'd rather have a physical journal. And I know that's a little bit more of a cost, but I would just be concerned if one of these companies decided to go belly up and say, nah, we don't want to do this anymore, or it's not enough people doing a digital journal and all of that. And I'd rather just have a paper one.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Griff. And Shane, you said you had another question for us.
Yes. Since I'm starting out, what should I know that I can't find in the statutes?
Oh boy.
Well, there could be a lot of that. So
yeah,
you might want to know probate code, because that addresses powers of attorney and last wills. You might want to know health and safety code as it applies to notarization in a skilled facility, to see if there's any advocate or ombudsman requirement for healthcare directives. So those are two in particular I would go after.
Okay.
Also recording laws for your state, so that you know what could impact the recordability of a document. So those are the three I recommend.
So the recordability, that also impacts privacy laws as well?
Well, when I talk about the recordability, I'm talking about there are recording laws in every state that say what is needed for a signature to be on a document to be recorded. So it might say signature.
Sorry, Laura, I went to mute somebody else and I muted you.
Okay. You muted me. So it's talking about does it meet the requirements of that state for the document to be recorded? Privacy is yet another one, and we should all be familiar with privacy laws, which basically means we're not sharing this information. We're taking care to protect this information that we have on our signers.
And I can find out the probate laws from the Secretary of State's office, or do I have to go to an attorney?
That's a Google Street place to
Okay.
go. I go in there and I say, what are the probate code, probate code for state of Virginia? And then I start looking into it to see where does it apply to me. But I can tell you powers of attorney, healthcare directives, and last will and testament are all in that area. And
Okay.
sometimes you'll also find rules about signature by mark or proxy in that area as well, as they relate to those documents.
Okay.
All right. And you might also consider getting dialed into a Virginia specific notary group, whether on Facebook or other venues too, that could help guide you along the way in Virginia
Hey,
specifically.
Bill, this Griff, real
Hey, Griff.
quick. With Virginia, because I've reached out to the Secretary of State on a lot of stuff, and for any Virginia notaries, for you, Shane, and everybody else, one of the rules that Virginia notary, what they told me, or the way they look at it is, they said Virginia is a self-certifying state, and it is up to us to certify or to verify that we are in line with said rules, regulations, and laws. They won't necessarily explain anything
Right.
or help you understand it. So you got to figure it out sort of for yourself. And I've asked them specific questions about things, and all they came back with was contact an attorney.
Yeah.
That was
Read
it.
the statute.
And I said,
Yeah.
but this is, I said, but this is asking me to do something that's outside of your guidelines. Then basically they're saying just stay within the guidelines. But they wasn't giving me any direction as to yes or no, whether I should or shouldn't do something.
Right.
That was it.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Legal
You bet.
Shield would work for me for that because I have a business supplement.
Yeah.
So I can ask those kinds of questions of an attorney.
All right, Shane, does that do it?
I do have one other question.
All right.
I got I joined the NNA and I got the Virginia Notary Primer, and then it said there wasn't really one required by the statutes of Virginia, but they gave a sample for a certificate of verification of fact. What are the scenarios that would require such a document?
Interesting question, Laura.
Yeah, you know what? I'd have to look at that to tell you what that's about. I don't know. Griff, do you know anything about that?
Certificate of fact.
Nope. That one I don't know anything
Yeah,
about.
I would have to look it up in the primer myself to see what it's in context to.
Because they gave like a rough draft or a sample text in the primer book, and I went ahead and typed one up just in case I needed it or whatever. But I wasn't sure what kind of situation would actually require the certificate.
But it sounds like that's not a notary certificate, but rather a statement that maybe a signer would make, and then you would affix a certificate to it, or maybe it's at the top of a certificate and the bottom half is a certificate. But I would have to see it to understand it, and I can't do it right at this moment.
Okay, no problem.
Great
Thank
question, Shane. Welcome to the industry. I'm sure we'll see more of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
All right. Thanks for being here. All right. Real quick, guys, quick commercial break. I want to remind everybody that next Thursday, May 6th, at 12 p.m. Pacific time, Sandra Long, my co-author of Supercharge Your Notary Business with LinkedIn, in conjunction with Ronnie Mickle over at Notary Stars, we've combined forces to bring you a webinar on how to create a incredible profile. And my favorite, of course, is on LinkedIn because it gives you so much flexibility, but it's one profile to rule them all. So you can copy and paste from your LinkedIn profile into all your other online profiles. 123 Notary, Notary Cafe, signingagent.com, everything. So you have one master place with all that information. So all of your profiles are consistent and they match. Not only does that help your branding and your image, but it also helps your search engine optimization. So if you'd like to learn that, it's completely free to join us next Thursday at noon Pacific, and it will be recorded and sent out to those who register. The link for that is inside, but it's notarycoach.com/notary stars, all one word, if you'd like to join us. All right, Randy Venters from Washington. Thanks for being here. How can we help today?
I've got one new question and then a follow-up on the IDs for Laura, if I can.
Sure.
My first question is, as I'm reading my Washington notary primer from the NNA, so it's talking about corrections of a certificate, and it says if the pre-printed venue is incorrect, the notary must line through the incorrect state or county write in the proper site of the notation and initial and date the change. One is, it says that in the notary and the primer. I can't find it online anywhere for corrections, but I'm guessing if it's in the primer, I probably do need to put the date. Is that a common thing for other states? And then do I have to worry about all of the multiple forms that I've already corrected and never put the date on?
I don't
Great
think
question.
it's common for all states. I would have to look at statute, because the law primer that the NNA puts out sometimes combines best practice or good idea with what the law actually says. So I would have to actually look at the statute. And if it's not in the statute, then it's a good idea, not a requirement.
Okay, I can't find anything in the statutes about corrections though.
So Randy, if you can reach out to me after this call, I'll pull up the statute to
Okay.
see what it actually says.
Okay.
Okay,
And then my
if
second,
it's not there, not required.
all right. And then my second question would be, you say you don't take pictures of IDs. Most of the platforms that I work with have where I go to their website and I'm taking a picture on my phone, but it's uploading to their server. It's not saving it on my phone. I get the point of you not wanting to save the picture on your phone, but if someone is taking a picture on their phone and then emailing it to you, aren't you just as liable for having a copy of that ID in your email?
Yeah, I do double delete with the email as soon as I print it. I just don't want it in my phone. If you want to have another practice, feel free to do that. Whether they're asking me to upload it, I don't want to use my phone. I don't want it going on my phone. That's my bottom line.
So even if it's a straight upload to their server, you're not using your phone.
Let them use their phone and upload it. I don't want to
Okay.
use my phone to hold it, not even for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Randy. Kristen Benbow from California.
Hey there.
Hi, how can we help?
Well, I bumbled through my first two signings. And my question is, I had them sign and thumbprint at the end. Is that acceptable? Or do I have to keep doing this back and forth business?
Great question. And I know Laura talks a lot about this, even has a video training on this. Laura, what do you say?
Yeah, I do all signatures and thumbprinting at the end of my assignment while I'm doing the QA. That's what they do.
Thank God. I was like, 3 hours was my first one. Oh my God, what a nightmare. And then the other one was 2.5 hours. And I'm like, okay, it'll get faster, you know. But I was always doing something, writing or, you know, but I also faked a lot of it too, because I was like looking at the document and going, well, he's looking at that. I'm going to try to figure out what I'm going to say next. So that was interesting. My second question is, thank you for that. In the future, when I'm ready to start approaching title and escrow offices, and I go, oh, well, there's one, you know, ABC right down the street from me I could practically walk to. Would it behoove me to check all of the signing services that I work with and make sure that they're not on the list? How far do you go with that?
So to avoid poaching?
Yes.
No, there's not really a whole lot you can do. You can pretty much count on almost every title company having some sort of relationship with somebody at the time. So you just don't want to specifically, and this is about intention, right? So if you don't know what you don't know, there you don't have the intention. But if a signing company sends you a Peachtree notary or Peachtree escrow company signing, and then you're like, oh, this looks good, I see what they're paying, I'm gonna go knock on Peachtree's door, that's poaching.
Okay.
So it's hard to prove intent sometimes, but you have to have your own integrity inside. And then also you need to be aware of that perception is reality when it comes to this thing. So if you're working with a regular company, and they work with that client sometimes, but maybe it's a different escrow officer, it can be a really slippery slope. There are so many options out there that I would just avoid anything that even looks like poaching if you can.
Yeah, I just wouldn't know where, like, if I have to check a list or something. But if I see what you mean, if it's, somebody that I've seen multiple times over and it's starting to look familiar to me, then obviously I wouldn't go after them.
Right. Right. If you're introduced to that person or that company through somebody else because that's their client, then you leave them alone. That's off limits.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm on my way.
All right. Yeah, it's finally.
Rough.
You've been waiting. Congratulations.
I actually got called the second time, and it was the same company that I worked with the first time.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I was biting my nails, thinking they were saying, "Oh, you did something wrong." They called me for something else, so that was cool.
Yeah, that's a good feeling. I remember I used to get so nervous when the phone would ring and it was the same client. I'm like, oh my gosh, I messed up. What did I do? And then you answer it and they're like, hey, you available at 7 tonight? I'm like, oh yeah, sure am. Yeah, good feeling. And you are getting better. I mean, shaving 30 minutes off your time by your second signing is huge. And in California, it's just going to take longer. So you see in these Facebook groups, everybody's finishing signings in 40 minutes. That's just not going to be you in California, probably, right? It's just, there's just so much that you have to do for some of these long signings. So you just count on taking a little more time.
There was about 14 notaries, 14 notarizations, the second one. And it was just one guy. The first one was a trust. So I was like, okay, that was rough.
Great way to kick off your first signing. Yeah. It never fails. It's either going to be a reverse, a trust, POA, split signing. Those are always going to be your first one.
Yep.
All right. Well, congratulations, Kristen. Glad it's happening for you.
Thank you.
All right. Melissa from Arizona. Welcome. You want to unmute?
Hi guys. I could probably show you I'm a real person. So I have two questions. The first one is I'm currently reading Sign and Thrive. Yay.
Awesome. Thanks.
I have downloaded Arizona's reference manual, and I've read through it. The first couple times I read through it, I was like, huh? And then I feel like as I read through it a little more, some of it kind of sinks in a little better.
Yeah.
But I'm like a details person. My other job, it's completely detailed. So I don't want to screw it up because the law is the law. Should I be looking at, I know that Notary Essentials is a program. Should I be doing something like that in addition to a loan signing course?
In Arizona, well, it's not. I haven't taken the Notary Essentials course. Laura, what's your suggestion on that? Through the NNA.
About an hour, and it will give you the basics of your state. And that's a good, it's a good start. If you're in a state that provides no training, then I'd recommend that you do that. If you have a state that has training, you're probably not going to get anything more from that essentials than you already got from your state training. And you might want to look at more specific training beyond that. But I don't believe Arizona has state training. So this would be a start.
We have that.
Yeah, I know that they have workshops that they offer through the Secretary of State, but unprecedented times. We're not allowed to go in any government building yet. So I was kind of waiting around to see if that would open. And I'm like, maybe I should just, pay a couple dollars and do a basics. Because, you can read the reference manual, but until I really test myself on it, how do I know how much I retained?
Well, and the thing with Arizona in particular is a lot of that wording is pretty vague, and we do not have support. So when you call the Secretary of State, depending on who answers the phone, you will get different answers. And if you already know that you're somebody who likes attention to detail, which probably means you kind of prefer black and white, this is how you do it and this is how you don't do it, then I would set yourself up for success and go above and beyond, get the extra training. Most notaries don't do that in Arizona, but you can absolutely do that. And Laura can help with that too. Laura offers these state specific one-on-one training. So she can set you up for that one-on-one if you want to do that, or you can take the Notary Essentials course through the NNA.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question has to do with insurance. You know, I'm part of different Facebook groups and everybody has an opinion and everybody's right and everybody's wrong. And so what I'm gathering is E&O insurance is important for being a notary in addition to your bond. And then the big question is, do they cover my loan signings or does my E&O only cover my notarizations? And then people chime in and say, it doesn't matter. The signing service that hires you, you fall under their insurance if you make a signing error. So you guys are the experts. What's the what?
Good question. So, and there's a little bit of truth into all of that, but it's not, there's not a blanket statement that's going to work for you. So the E&O insurance that we all talk about, Laura, Carol, me, through the National Notary Association covers your notarial acts, but it's not going to cover anything else that you do as a loan signing agent.
Okay.
So to me, what this comes down to is your own risk tolerance and your own personal situation. If you have significant assets, if you have a really low risk tolerance, and you like to have insurance, you may consider a professional liability insurance policy, which would cover those additional documents. Maybe, again, you want to get clarification from the insurance company that you're buying this for as to exactly what is covered and what is not covered ahead of time, so you know what you're getting into. When it comes to the umbrellas of policies, it has been explained to me because I wanted to pursue this as well. So I went to the legal departments of some of my clients and got some general information that, yeah, the title companies have their own umbrella policies. Those signing companies have their own umbrella policies. And then the individual have umbrella or our own policies. What is covered in that is super convoluted, and I wouldn't weigh on that. I wouldn't rely on that for my own insurance or my own protection needs. But somewhere in there's lots of protection unless there's not.
Okay.
Laura, what do you have to say on that?
Well, yeah, the same thing. The E&O insurance we talk about it protects you, one, from unintentional mistakes related to the notarization, whether that's a loan signing document or it's a hospital document or I'm at the jail, it really doesn't matter. It's still going to provide me protection related to that. If I'm concerned about other documents that I might, or other tasks or activities I may be involved in that create an issue and damages for the signer, that's when the E&O that most of us have wouldn't cover. If I lost the documents, that's not the E&O that we have for our notarization, because that's not notarizing, right? I miscalculated on the right to cancel. That's not a notary act. So that's really what the difference is there. And then, you know, here's how I feel. I carry what the industry tells me I need to carry in order to get the work. And I don't carry more than that. And the reason is that I rely on being good at what I do and knowing my laws and not taking shortcuts. And when I do that, because I testify in court as an expert witness, either on behalf of or against notaries, and that's what they go after. They look to see, what did you do? Did you carry out your responsibilities? Did you take a shortcut? Are you not recording things? That's what they're looking to then say. And based on that, we think it's your fault. So, you know, if you know your law, follow your law, you incorporate best practices, whether that's in journaling or anything else, you don't really need all that other stuff.
Okay, so just basic
my
E&O, the
opinion.
$25,000 policy is legit. It's what we need.
Well, for signing services, if you're working for title companies direct, they may ask or require 100 or they won't hire you. So that's what I carry, because that's what it takes. That's the entrance fee for me to work with title companies. But I don't carry $1 million. I don't carry 500,000. It just doesn't seem needed. And for me, my personal take is it's a bigger target. I'm a deeper pocket when they do start to sue, when they see, oh, hey, she's not just worth the $15,000 bond. She's got $1 million policy. Let's go for that.
And that's,
so that's why I don't want to go there.
And that's so true. And this is what I think is so important. I see it every day where notaries use their insurance limits as a marketing tool. And I do not recommend that. Number one, we all have $100,000 policy or a $25,000 policy. But if you have $1 million, you are literally saying, hey guys, come get me, because I've got an insurance company that will settle.
That's right. And remember, the insurance companies are not looking out for your best interest. They are looking out for their own best interest, and they will settle if that's what's in their best interest, even if it wasn't your fault. So then when you get asked later about has your bond ever been accessed or E&O paid out, you're going to have to say yes, even though you didn't do anything wrong. Because remember, the insurance company is in for their own profit. They're in business for themselves, not for us.
Right. In our next lives, we should all be insurance companies, right?
There you go.
It's not too late.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Melissa. All right. Hey, Matt, you're next.
Hey.
Don't forget to
unmute.
Hey guys, how's it going today? Matt from the California League of Independent Notaries. I'm here today with two big announcements. The first one is in regards to remote online notarization. Tomorrow, the Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, will be hosting a virtual informative briefing. I will be participating as a panelist, as well as several others from around the country. And we're going to be talking about the issues we face and the solutions we proposed to get possibly a pilot program started in California or something along those lines. So if you're interested in where California is on RON and what we're looking to accomplish, you need to sign up for the California League of Independent Notaries newsletter, as the link for the public has not yet been released, but it's slated to be released later this afternoon. And as soon as I get it, I will blast out an email to everyone to let you know what the link is so that you can tune in, you can observe, and you can, there will be a section for public comment towards the end as well. So I hope everyone can show up. A good showing of practitioners shows all stakeholders that notaries care. So please try to set aside some time if you can. The other big announcement is not necessarily for notaries in general, but for immigration consultants. We had an active bill here in California, SB 670, that would have put in place some excessive education requirements and a 10-year minimum experience threshold that would have put a lot of immigration consultants out of business. And I'm happy to say, after filing our opposition and working with some allies, coalition allies, we have been able to get those stipulations stripped out of the bill. So we're very happy to announce that. We have withdrawn our opposition, and now the bill will actually improve the profession of immigration consultant, as opposed to kind of make it harder, if not impossible, to be one. So those are the two things I wanted to share today. I will put the sign up link in the chat for the newsletter so you can get the blast when the link comes out. And feel free to send me any questions you may have. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah, I love it, Matt. Thank you so much. And again, I'm just always inspired by your story, just showing what one person can do to motivate a whole group of people to really make changes when you don't agree with the way things are done. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's see how we're doing on time. Wow, we are just knocking through them today. I love it. Jen at Monterey Bay Notary. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Bill, and hi, Laura, again. This is actually really great timing. I've been waiting to inquire about the California Notary, the RON event that's going on. My question to the panel and perhaps other notaries is, what are the issues, the most major issues and hurdles that notaries are going to face in California with Ron possibly coming on board at some time in the future? What have other notaries seen? What do we need to be conscious of while we go and listen to this presentation tomorrow?
Matt?
Yeah, I think Matt would be really great for this. Are you still with us, Matt?
I'm still here, guys. Great question, Jen. Thanks for asking. I'm going to be talking all about that. I'm going to be talking about some specific issues to California, particularly when it comes to Gov Code 8206G, which talks about the thumbprint requirement for certain documents. I'm going to be talking about the other three big practitioner and concerns of organizations that are with us. And of course, the elephant in the room is data privacy. We kind of want to do what Colorado did and what Florida is now attempting to do, which would be to prohibit the use and sale and sharing of that data collected during the transaction. And therefore, we would keep exclusive control of it like we do now. And then the other one is liability protections for practitioners, because for those who aren't familiar with how RON works, the platform pretty much takes on the identity proofing and vetting process. And we, under current code, the platform, if their vetting process fails and then fraud occurs, they can always just point to the notary and shield themselves of all liability. So we want to talk about how we want to delineate that liability amongst the practitioners and the platform providers. And then the last one is jurisdictional protections. And that's a long-winded conversation that we don't have time for here today, but basically some constitutional agencies and we as well would like to expand current code, which stipulates that notarizations taking place in California are completed by California practitioners, to include RON as a consumer protection issue. So if you tune in tomorrow, I'm going to go into depth on these issues and the solutions and compromises that we have proposed.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great question. All right, thanks for being here, Jen. Carlos, thanks for being here. You want to unmute and let everybody know what state you're in and how we can help?
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry about that. I'm in Arizona. Thank you, Bill, for having me on. I know Carol's not with us, but I just want to give a quick shout out to Carol Ray. She was a wonderful coach for me when I started in the industry 3 or 4 years ago. Awesome. And just want to say hi. Here's my question scenario. It's regarding video witness. Let's say we're doing a power of attorney in an attorney's office. The attorney pulls up somebody on their phone. They witness a signature. They provide their driver's license per text. You never see the physical license. What are the legalities or illegalities of that? Something like that.
Wow, great question. I think the question would come down to whether or not the witness is notarized, right, Laura?
So in a power of attorney, in a will for Arizona, it is notarized. So you're having to notarize that person.
So to me, that falls then under you'd have to follow the guidelines for remote online notarization. Right. It can't just be a witness, because we have to physically inspect the card if we're going to do just a regular notary, or the ID, if we're going to do just a regular notarization. Otherwise, it becomes remote online notarization. Laura, what do you think?
Well, same thing. There's traditional notarization, which means you got a signer in front of you. And that means everything is traditional, the whole 9 yards. You can't do like half of it traditional and half of it RON. And it is not okay to just have the witness appear on the phone. Because even if you're going to do RON, it's not on your phone. There's a platform that has to be utilized, and there's a process of vetting that ID card that you have to have the software to work with it to make that so. So I would say the answer is a big no, the way you described it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, great, interesting question. Amina Payne, I feel like it's been so long. How are you?
It has been long. Sorry, guys. I've been strutting my stuff out there and just being really busy. So I'm really glad to be joining you all.
Yeah, so glad
I
to hear
had
it.
a really interesting signing the other day. So I was signing a refinance and it was being signed in a trust. So 2 trustees, they were also trust settlers. And in the documents, particularly the deed of trust and the riders, they had to sign. Normally they would sign in 3 places. They would sign as the borrower, they would sign as the trustee, and they would sign as the trust settler. In this case, their names were listed as borrower, trustee. There was a line underneath that said trust settler, but their name was not on that line. And so I chose not to have them sign because their name was not on that line. Sent the documents back to title. Next day, got a call. You missed the trust settler signatures. And I said, because their names were not mentioned. She said, it doesn't matter. You should have included it anyway. Is that right? Because I've always erred on, if there's not a name on the document, then you don't get the signer to sign it. You know, if there's only the borrower, you don't have the spouse sign it because there's no name on the document.
Well, that's a really interesting scenario, but I think the reason that they don't include the name is sometimes the trust settler is someone else. So a settler is the establisher or the starter or the originator of the trust. So in most cases, they're one and the same, but sometimes they can be different. So they may not include that. But in that particular scenario, they were one and the same. And you can tell that from the trust affidavit because it listed out. So if that name is the same as the borrower, then you would have them sign that.
And
even if the names are not on the line.
Yes.
So Amina, also, you already had some knowledge of what it normally would look like. And if it didn't fit that profile, but you had suspicion that, hey, normally it's like this, I would have been making a phone call to say, hey, I normally would see the name here and I don't. Are you telling me not to collect it, or should I go ahead and collect it, even though the name is not printed under the line?
Got you. Okay. Thanks ever so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right. Diana, thanks for being here. You want to unmute? Tell everybody what state you're in and how we can help.
Oh, hi there. Illinois.
All right.
So I don't chime in very often, so I have 3 little quickie questions.
Sure.
Okay, so I was wondering, how often do you ever run into credible witness situations at signings?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, all the time.
Because Illinois' law says that not only does the person have to be well known to the notary, they have to be enough known, pretty okay known to the signer. So I'm thinking that seems pretty unlikely at a signing, and that would only happen in general notary work amongst friends, family, and acquaintances.
Yeah, there's a couple states that have that weird credible witness law, which pretty much negates it, right, Laura?
Yeah, there are some states that say, look, you can have 1 witness as long as you, the notary, and the friend or family member of the signer know each other. And in loan signings, it's not likely. So pretty much if you don't have ID, you're probably not going to get anywhere. But many states have it where you can either know them or they can produce ID. And in many other states, they have 1 means you know them and 2 means you don't and they have ID. So there's other alternatives. So in California, we can use 2 credible witnesses and I don't have to know either one. They just show ID. And so that's probably why I see it more. And if somebody else is in a state where they allow it to go either way, they're going to see it more. They can use it more. And a state like yours is pretty much not going to happen very much, except general work.
Yeah, I think that makes me happy. I don't think I want to deal with it. The other thing is, I don't know how everybody else's DMVs are, but ours is really screwed up and behind. There's at least 4-hour waits. I was just wondering if anybody's running into people whose IDs are too expired to work. I was chatting with a longtime closing agent the other day and asking her if she's run into this and does she accept an ID that's too expired? Say like Illinois has said March 15th of last year. If your license is expired beyond that, like if it's not fresh from there on, you can't use your ID. If it expired before that, can't use it. And she said, well, we'll take pretty much, you know, whatever the kind of 2 sections of the Patriot Act are, even if their ID's expired, if they can come up with these other IDs from the other section of the Patriot Act, then we'll accept that and, you know, it'll work. And I was like, well, that's not what notarial law says. So not that anybody knows, because the SOS hasn't put it in writing and or put it out in a statement or anything like that. They just keep putting these extensions instead of explaining your ID is really this old. If your ID expired in January of 2020 and you didn't do something about it, and then all the DMVs closed, you're not going to be signing anything. So I was kind of concerned that the closing agents, like, you know, they're probably telling all these signing agents, yeah, as long as you satisfy the Patriot Act, we're good. But we're not good.
Well, yeah, we run into this problem quite a bit because we get lots of people who tell us, yeah, even before, because the lenders or the closing agent were like, yeah, we're fine with it, just do it. But so that's why it's so important for us to know our law. So Laura, what do you have to say on how to handle that?
Yeah, they're not the boss of me. That's what I have to say about that.
I feel like I need to start asking the signers when setting up the appointment to make sure their IDs aren't expired. They might think they're not expired, but when they tell me the date, I might say, oh, that's expired.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the best place to eliminate surprises at the table. And when I coach people, NSAs particularly, I tell them, when you set that appointment, you go over ID. Not just you need a photo ID, but what kind, if you're in a state that designates that, when does it expire? Because sometimes, oh no, it's not expired. And then they're shocked. It's like, really, it is? They missed it. And so for those two, and the other part is, and what name is on it, because that may not be what's on the loan documents. Yesterday, I picked up just a last minute assignment for a guy because the notary didn't know how to handle it, because the document said Anthony, but his ID said Tony. And she didn't know how to reconcile that. And every credit card in his wallet that I looked at said Tony. Everything he had said Tony. It was just that, or excuse me, it was the other way around, Anthony versus Tony. He said, I just never used my given name. The last time I refinanced my house, it was in Tony. Nobody said anything. So that's just how it is. And because that notary didn't understand what her options were, she lost that assignment. And I picked up a $200 assignment for a 30-minute appointment, one signer. So it's unfortunate when you don't know what you can do versus what you can't do. It can happen on either side of the fence. So Diana, stay strong. You know what you can or cannot do, but ask that question with the signer before you ever get to their house.
Yes. And then my last thing was for you, Laura. You're talking about doing all the signings at the very end after you've reviewed the docs. Does that include the initialing too?
No, I'm not quite sure how you're phrasing that. That's not what I said.
Say like for a signing, you're doing only the notarization at the very end. Is that what you're doing, and not the actual, the signer doing all the signings and initialings on a stack of paper?
No, that's not what I'm doing. So
okay,
what I'm doing is presenting documents and collecting the signatures and the initials and whatever else has to happen at that time. And while they're doing that part, I'm writing in my journal. So by the time we get to the end, I can do QA work and they can sign and or thumbprint in the journal. Also, I'll withhold a document like statement of information because that takes time. And I'll let them work on that when I'm working on the journal. So I find ways that we work in unison, right? And everything's getting done. So nobody's sitting there waiting for somebody else to do something.
Oh, you mean, so while they're signing, dating, initialing, you're journaling? That's
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. And when I'm QAing their journaling, their signatures and thumbprints, and or filling out a document I may have pulled out to let them piddle with that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get clarified. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
All right, Diana, thank you so much for being here. Glad you had some questions for us. Guys, that's going to bring us right up to the 1 hour. I'm so sorry for those that we didn't get a chance to get to today. I hope you'll join us next week. And again, if we need to answer some questions in the meantime, you know, Carol, Laura, myself, we make ourselves very available. via our websites. And guys, just a quick shout out about the Side Hustle Lounge podcast. The first 4 episodes have dropped and they are all notary centric. These first 4 anyway. We've got Laura as our first guest talking about how to monetize your notary commission. We've got John Holder talking about remote online notarization. Judy Lawrence talking about apostille work, and Dory McCleskey talking about her journey from struggling signing agent to multiple 6-figure producer, signing company owner, and now trainer in Colorado. If you don't mind, check that out, download those, check out the VIP room. We have all kinds of resources for you, and there's a lot more coming every single week. Thank you guys. You have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.